Colby Covington is an absolute fraud. That's what I want to come on here and talk about. A lot of the newer fans see this guy on the scene, and by the way he talks, you would think this guy is like one of the greatest fighters in the welterweight history, and it's just not true. I think that he is going to get KO'd by Joaquin Buckley this weekend, and it's going to be so funny to see because this guy's been talking for a long time about how he's the greatest welterweight, and he always gives the fans what they want to see, and he's beaten the best fighters over the last 10 years. So I wanted to come on here and debunk all of what Colby's saying, and really just dig into it and expose this guy for the absolute ding-dong of a thing he is. So let's get right into it. Starting off with the guys that he's beat. Let's look at his last 5 wins. Let's look at his last 3 wins, really. A 37-year-old Masvidal on a 2-fight losing streak. A 38-year-old Tyron Woodley on a 2-fight losing streak. A 37-year-old Robbie Lawler on a 2-fight losing streak. Do you guys see a pattern? I can't seem to put my finger on it. He beat a 33-year-old RDA at welterweight who was on a 3-fight winning streak. Fair enough, but RDA's never been a good welterweight, so not that impressive to me. And he beat a 40-year-old Damian Maia coming off a loss to Tyron Woodley. So obviously way past his prime. And in that fight, Damian Maia actually cut him and was out-jabbing Colby Covington, which was hilarious to see. Imagine getting out-jabbed by Damian Maia. But like I said, if you look at this guy's wins in the last, this is in the last 7-8 years, maybe not that long. It's been in the last 7 years, you look at this guy's wins, and it's just not impressive, dude. I mean, he's beating guys like washed up Masvidal, beating guys like washed up Woodley, washed up Robbie Lawler, welterweight RDA, who's never been good, an old 40-year-old Damian Maia. It's only the last 5 wins, only one fighter that he fought RDA was on a win streak. The rest were all on losing streaks, and just the way he talks about himself, and he's beat the best guys. Have you beat the best guys? These guys are all past their prime, way past their prime. And it's dude, come on, Colby Covington, be real with yourself. I don't think he believes half the stuff that he says, if I'm being honest. Just his last wins are just a fraudulent. And yes, I definitely wanted to point this out in this video. Let's get to the next slide. We got his inactivity. This guy has had 7 fights in 5.5 years. If that's not the definition of inactivity, then I don't know what is. If you look on the screen, he fought once in 2018, 2 times in 2019, once in 2020, once in 2021, once in 2022, and once in 2023, and now once in 2024. This guy's fighting literally an average once a year, which is quite insane. Whenever he's always talking about, yeah, I'm the people's champ. I'm a company man. I give the UFC what they want. I give the fans what they want. Do you really give the fans what they want? Because, Colby, if you gave the fans what they want, maybe you would be fighting more than once a year. I understand you're on the golf course with Donald Trump and you're in poker tournaments, but if this guy wouldn't talk such a big game and always crap the bed anytime it comes up to step up to the fight, like he did against Leon Edwards, like he did in both Usman's fights, it's this guy talks like he's the next GSP. Bro, you're literally 2-3 in your last 5. You're cooked. Anytime you've stepped up to fight for a title, you've lost outside of an interim title fight against a washed Robbie Lawler, or no, RDA, who wasn't washed, fair enough. He was 33, but still, it's this guy has been talking such a big game for so long. And it's about time we expose all the nonsense that comes out of this dude's mouth. Like I said, look on the screen. It's no secret. This guy's literally had 1 fight a year since 2019. And it's what are we doing, Colby? And the UFC, for whatever reason, has rewarded his inactivity. And that's another thing I want to talk about. If you look at his title shots, they're all gifted. This guy's 0-3 in title fights. He's fought Usman twice for the belt and Leon for the belt. The only warranted title shot he got was his first one. After his first title shot against Kamaru Usman, which he got finished in the 5th round, right? He went on to beat a washed Tyron Woodley, who was 38 years old, coming off of 2 losses. He got a win over Tyron Woodley. And after that, he sat out a year on the sidelines, and he was rewarded with a rematch against Kamaru Usman. Close fight. He lost the fight again, right? Then he goes and beats a washed Jorge Masvidal at UFC 272, gets him 4-1, right? And then he's gifted another title shot against Leon Edwards because, according to Dana, he weighed up as the backup fighter for Leon Usman. So they guaranteed him a title shot, which I thought was completely ridiculous. And listen, I don't condone the kind of behavior that Masvidal put out after he lost to Colby. If you guys don't know, Colby Covington dominated Jorge Masvidal in the main event of UFC 272. And then a few days later, Masvidal finds Colby at a steakhouse, goes up to him and sucker punches him after the fight. Which, it's funny. I don't condone that type of behavior. I think it's cowardly to do that. But if anybody was going to have that happen to him, it was Colby Covington, talking about people's kids, talking about their families. I just thought that it was kind of funny that Masvidal did that. I don't know, man. At the time, it was cringe, but looking back on it and all the nonsense Colby speaks, it's like, man, this guy was going to get caught up eventually talking all that noise. You know what I'm saying? And then not to mention, like I said, man, this guy continuously takes years off of his career, takes out of the octagon, and then he comes back and is like, yeah, man, I'm the top guy in this division. You know, the fans want to see Colby Chaos Covington. It's Colby 2.0. And then when he loses a fight, he just makes a bunch of excuses. Oh, well, I broke my foot. Oh, well, it was altitude. And, oh, well, Mark Goddard was against me. And Kamaru Usman was cheating. And it's like, dude, we get it. Excuses after excuses. Everybody's injured going to UFC fights. Everybody has issues. You can make excuses all day long. But at the end of the day, whenever this guy steps up to fight for the title, he's 0-3. But the way he talks in interviews, you would think that he was 50-0 in the UFC. That's the way Colby Covington speaks. That he's beaten everybody. He has nothing else to prove. None of these guys do anything for him. And to me, it's just so ridiculous. Let's get on to the next slide. And this is going to be some videos that I wanted to go over about Colby Covington talking about Kamaru's ex-manager / coach. Colby Covington talking about Leon's dad and lead up to their fight. Saying that he wants to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov whenever we all know that just was never true. Saying that Ian Garry does nothing for him in his career. Saying that he's always in title contention, which is ridiculous. Saying that his excuses about the Leon fight and why he performed the way he did. And this one guy in the media that asked Colby Covington a question, Colby had to pay this guy because this guy was just glazing, giving Colby all the glazed donuts. So, yeah, let's get into a couple of these videos and I can let you guys listen to the nonsense this guy spews. Let's get into the first one. This is him talking about Kamaru Usman's ex-manager, Glenn Robinson, who actually died. Let's listen to what he says.
He's a piece of shit, man. I mean, he was ducking me so long when Glenn Robinson was his manager that Glenn Robinson died from it because he was ducking me so hard and wouldn't fight me. So, you know, it's
like, to me, this is just like scumbaggery to the most scumbaggery. Like, this is the stuff this guy used to trash talk in his lead up to his fight with Kamaru Usman, saying that his coach died because Kamaru Usman ducked him so hard that he had a heart attack and died. This is one of the most scummy things I've ever heard a UFC fighter say. Yeah, it was for promotion, blah, blah, blah. But, dude, his daughters were going through, like, mourning process of their dad dying, and Colby Covington in public is talking about him having a heart attack and saying how he was a piece of crap and how Usman ducked him so hard that his coach died. And I think the daughters of this guy literally messaged Colby privately and said, hey, don't talk about our dad like we're mourning. Like, he literally had a heart attack and died unexpectedly. And it's like, dude, how much of a scumbag you have to be to go ahead and promote a fight by using a guy's death who was a former coach of Kamaru Usman? Sure, attack Kamaru Usman, you know. He has a Malteser head and he's probably on roids. The CEO of EPO, as you call him, but to go for this guy's coach who passed away is just scumbaggery of the scumbaggery. Colby Covington proving why, once again, he's a complete garbage can. And yeah, man, that's one instance of him being a trash can. Let's look at him in the build-up to the Leon fight and what else he said about Leon's dad. Another instance of the same thing. It's like,
fucking stupid. On Saturday night, I'm going to bring you to a place you never want to be. I'm going to bring you to the 7th layer hell.
Okay.
No, I'm bringing you to 7th layer hell. We'll say what's up to your dad while we're there.
Oh!
Insanity. So obviously Leon and Edwards, as soon as Colby Covington said that he's going to take him to the 7th layer of hell where his dad's there, Leon's Edwards' dad died to gun violence, if I'm not mistaken. Fact check that for me. But yeah, he died to gun violence. And for Colby Covington to say that I'm going to take you to the 7th layer of hell and we'll find your dad there, like, another reason to just like completely just be a completely disrespectful scumbag towards Leon Edwards. Completely unnecessary. There's plenty of ways to promote a fight. You don't need to go and attack someone's dead father and say that you're going to take him to the 7th layer of hell. Like, that's not even fight promotion. That's just being a complete just coward, in my opinion. And obviously Leon Edwards was pretty upset about this. I think he even cried because he was so angry, which rightfully so, man. I mean, literally, you don't know what Leon Edwards been through. Like, we clown on Leon, but to talk about the guy's dead father who died to gun violence is just crazy to me. And this wasn't a good look, and I'm glad. I wish Leon would have knocked him out, but I'm glad Colby Covington got absolutely cooked by Leon in the fight and just embarrassed. It wasn't the most impressive performance by either of them, but I'm glad Colby didn't win because after he said some stupid crap like this, it was good to see him not win. I also want to go over some of the stuff he said on this past media day that I just thought was quite delusional and just a lot of it's just completely untrue. So let's go on to the next one. I think this is where he talks about how he was going to fight Shavkat. Let's listen to this one as well.
But he pulled out of the fight, so I called the UFC and volunteered. I wanted to fight Shavkat. That was the fight I wanted. You know, I think he's all hype. He hasn't fought anybody at my level, an elite fighter in a 5-round fight. So I was excited to fight Shavkat. But the UFC had already had other plans that said, hey.
Does anyone on the planet believe that this guy actually wanted to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov? A single person, let me know. I don't believe this for a second. Zero chance that Colby wanted to fight Shavkat. Like I showed you, if you look at his last 5 opponents in the UFC, 37, 37, 38, 33, 40. You're telling me this guy wanted to fight a 30-year-old in prime Shavkat Rakhmonov, 18 fights, 18 finishes? Yeah, I don't buy this for a second. Colby never wanted to fight Shavkat. He's all talking to media. He's the clickbait merchant, as he calls all the other guys. That's him talking about how he wants the biggest and baddest fights of the UFC. But yet he's ducking Ian Garry, he's ducking Shavkat, and instead he wants to face Joaquin Buckley. I wonder why he wants to face Joaquin Buckley instead of Shavkat. Not saying that Joaquin Buckley is not dangerous. It's just interesting that Colby Covington just continues to embarrass himself. I don't believe for a second, and I don't think any UFC fan believes for a second, that this guy actually wanted to fight Shavkat. In what world does Colby Covington step up on short notice like Ian Garry, respect Ian Garry, and fight Shavkat Rakhmonov? Never. Because he knows that he is not going to win that fight. Why? Because this guy does not fight. He's inactive. And being an inactive fighter, even if Colby Covington was active, I don't think he'd beat Shavkat. But being inactive at 36 years old, it's just embarrassing. He would never beat Shavkat. He would never step up to fight Shavkat. So him saying this is absolutely delusional and just cope. And just to make himself look like the big bad dog, like, yeah, dude, I wanted to take on Shavkat. No, you didn't. You never did. You didn't even want to take on Ian Garry. So, yeah. Let's get on to the next clip. This is a clip of him talking about how Ian Garry does nothing for his career, which is just untrue. It's actually quite the opposite. Ian Garry does everything for his career, and he does nothing for Ian Garry at this point. Maybe they do something for each other, but this is just delusional. Let's listen.
He does nothing for my career. What does he do for me? He's an absolute nobody who's beaten nobody. So I told him, hey, if you want this fight, just answer the 3 stipulations. Turn on your comments. Your wife wants to be so famous so bad. She's quoting Shakespeare, which is just...
And I just find this funny, too, how Colby's telling Ian to answer the stipulations and he'll fight him. That was just Colby's creative way of pretty much ducking Ian Garry. Like, oh, I'm going to make him make this video with his wife and turn on his comments on Instagram. That was literally Colby just ducking Ian Garry, because Colby knows that Ian Garry would beat his ass. He knows it. Ian Garry is a better striker. We now know he's a better offensive grappler than Colby Covington. I think Ian Garry would honestly outstrike and maybe submit Colby Covington at this point. And to say that Ian Garry does nothing for his career is so delusional, because we all know one of the biggest fights you could put on in the welterweight division is Ian Garry versus Colby Covington because of the storyline. And this is all Colby has left. If he loses to Buckley outside of an Ian Garry fight, he better get on his knees and beg Ian Garry to fight him if he loses to Buckley, which I think he will. If he gets KO'd by Buckley this weekend, this guy's probably going to retire and go play poker, and we'll never hear from him again. He's going to cower away and claim he was the best welterweight and all this nonsense when it's all been a shtick, guys. Colby Covington was never the best welterweight, not even at any point in time. Kamaru Usman was always better. Bilal Muhammad's better. Shavkat Rakhmonov's better. Ian Garry's better. Tyron Woodley in his prime was probably better. It's like, this guy's been a sham for years and years just saying this nonsense. And I think that Ian Garry, Colby Covington needs Ian Garry. Like, he does. Like, even if he wins this fight, he needs Ian Garry. And Ian Garry doesn't need him, which is funny. I would like to see that fight next if Colby beats Buckley. But I don't think he does. 36, nearly 37, washed up, talking a big game. Let's move on to the next clip. This is, let's see what this clip is about. This is a clip about some excuses, maybe. Let's listen.
Is for you, like if you do something spectacular inside.
Oh, this is about him being in title contention.
We're talking about you in a title contention.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's always in title contention. I'm the biggest name in the sport. There's no stars in this division. It's a bunch of...
Dude, this is also delusional. I'm the biggest name in the sport. There's no stars in this division. That's quite delusional, because literally no one cares to see Colby Covington anymore. His submission radio interviews get like maybe 20K views if he has an interview. Fair enough. He has 387,000 views right here. And that's solid views for a day. But it's like, dude, this guy is talking about how he's the biggest star in the sport. If that is so, then how come whenever you fought Jorge Masvidal for the UFC main event of 272, it only sold rumored to be 400,000 buys? Whenever Jorge Masvidal fought Kamaru Usman on short notice in Fight Island, they sold 1.3 million, over 3 times the amount you sold versus him. So if you're such a big star, how come you versus Masvidal, which was branded as friends turned bitter rivals, and supposed to be like one of the biggest grudge matches in UFC history. The build up was fun, but to only sell 400K is embarrassing. And to claim you're the biggest star in the UFC, John Jones sells double that, Conor McGregor quadruples that, and even 5 times that. It's like Pereira selling more than that. It's like, dude, you're not the biggest star in the UFC. Maybe, arguably, not even in the welterweight division. I'd argue Ian Garry is a bigger star at this point. I'd argue freaking Bilal Muhammad is. No, I'm joking. Not Bilal Muhammad, but it's like, dude, there are plenty of other guys in the division that are more exciting and like a bigger name than Colby Covington. Colby Covington comes back every year, talking the same game, gets in a title fight or any fight, loses, and then makes a whole bunch of excuses, goes hide, comes back, yeah, man, Kobe 2.0. It's just the same thing over and over. We're just so tired of it, man. Let's get on to the next one. And this is his pool of excuses on why he lost to Leon Edwards. This is great. Just like against Usman, he had a whole bunch of excuses. Let's hear all the excuses he made about losing to Leon Edwards.
Colorado, because the altitude is like 9,000 square feet above sea level. I ended up getting HAP, which is high altitude pulmonary edema. It's altitude sickness. So I came into fight week on Monday with bad fucking altitude sickness, and people don't realize that. If you go look at the media day, I couldn't even talk. I had freaking phlegm coming down my throat, couldn't breathe. So already going into the fight, I was compromised. And then in the first 30 seconds, I throw a kick, I break my foot in 3 different places. So that's not a reflection of who I am and how I.
All right, so he claims that the reason he lost the Leon Edwards fight is because he had altitude sickness, right? And he broke his foot in the first 30 seconds. Interesting. Maybe if this guy stayed in the gym and didn't fight once every 20 years, then maybe he wouldn't get altitude sickness. Maybe he would be used to training. He claims he's the hardest worker, right? He has the best cardio. He works the hardest. But yeah, we only see this guy once a year. And the one time he goes to train altitude, he gets sick because he's so weak and he doesn't fight. So his body gave out, if that is true. It sounds like a bunch of excuses to me. Broke his foot, blah, blah, blah. Listen, fighters go into fights with injuries all the time. Shavkat just fought Ian Garry with a torn MCL. Guys Hamzat broke his hand against Usman and still fought to a draw or won the fight. It's like guys break their arm, they break their rib. It's like they go into fights or get injured in fights and win all the time. I don't want to hear this injury excuse. At the end of the day, if you threw a kick and Leon checked it or you hit a spot where it broke, that's your problem, dude. You still lost the fight. You talked a big game coming in, talked about his dad, and he dog walked you. It wasn't the best performance from Leon, but he comfortably won the fight. And you showed up as the most embarrassing version of yourself. And it was just a shim, dude. This guy's performance against Leon Edwards is so embarrassing that even if he were to go on like a 5-fight win streak, I don't think you could ever give this guy a title shot again. We don't want to see it. He's 0-3 in title fights. It's just, dude, like the shtick is up. Colby Covington is an absolute fraud on every end, and yeah, that's what I'm making this video to expose it for, because I'm tired of all the nonsense. Let's move on to the last clip. And this, Colby had to pay this guy on the side because this guy was serving him up a box of glazed donuts. The amount of glaze in this question was just baffling. Let's have a listen to this reporter. An absolute sham of a reporter. This is the kind of guys that they need to get out of media day, because they're literally just asking questions to the UFC fighter to glaze them and like get an interview. They're not trying to ask him like real questions. They're just trying to glaze them. Listen to what this guy says.
Why do you talked about the sickness that you had before the last fight and obviously the injury in the first 30 seconds. Why do you think that people specifically talk about you and they conveniently leave those things out? They just say that Colby's past it and all these things about you, but they don't talk about other people in that division. Like if other people in the division were to go out and get an injury or something like that, I feel like they would mention it. But you specifically, it's, oh, Colby's past it. Like, why do you think fans look at you that way?
And there's this guy absolutely glazing Colby Covington, saying that people look at Colby a different way and like he gets more criticism than everybody else. No, it's just not true. The guy doesn't fight and he talks a big game and he gets unwarranted title shots. Of course, we're going to be critical of the guy. When you have, like, we don't criticize Kamaru Usman for being on a 3-fight losing streak and sitting out for a year. Like, we don't criticize Ian Garry for his personal problems outside the octagon. Like, we don't call Shavkat overrated. Like, we don't say Bilal sucks and he's boring. You know, there's criticism for everybody in the division. So for this reporter to go and glaze Colby and say, why do you think they specifically target you and they don't keep the same energy for everybody else? That's just a nonsense. I wouldn't be surprised if Colby sent this guy a check before the freaking media day, because that was the biggest glaze of a question I've ever heard by any reporter. So it's like, at least John Morgan keeps it real and asks Colby Covington questions, even if he can't do the push-ups. At least he still tries to ask him the questions. You know, either way, that was embarrassing to me. And it's like, yeah, man, that's what I want to go over. And just like I said, just have a look at his last 5 wins again, guys. We're 37, 38, 37, 33, 40. I mean, we're talking like an average of like 36 to 37 years old, his last 5 opponents. And he does not have a single win over any ranked welterweight. Not a single win. And this guy has, 5 wins in the last 7 years? That's embarrassing. Kevin Holland's probably fought 4 times the amount Colby Covington has in the last like 5 years. Colby Covington, he's embarrassing at this point. He's a 36-year-old man talking like he's like a jock in college. It's embarrassing. Like he's just, I don't know, man. His shtick is so old. He's been doing it for so long, and I think he's convinced himself that like he believes in this stuff. He probably believes that it would have went over Joaquin Buckley. He deserves a title shot, which there's no chance. This guy needs to go on like a 5-fight win streak. The amount of gifted title, this guy's the worst fighter ever to get 3 title shots. When we look at a guy like Dustin Poirier, right, who had to fight the gauntlet at lightweight to get to a Charles Oliveira title shot, to get to a Khabib title shot. Fair enough, his Islam title shot, he didn't have to work for it as hard. He kind of got gifted it, but Dustin Poirier had to fight or beat 7 former champions to get his 3 title shots. Colby Covington literally sat on the sidelines half his career and got gifted by the UFC multiple title shots. Maybe Donald Trump put a good word in the Dana White for him. Who knows? And also, I wonder how much it pisses Colby Covington off that Donald Trump's a fan of Jorge Masvidal. If you guys don't know, he said that he loves Jorge Masvidal. I'm sure, and you never heard Colby Covington mention this. I wish somebody would bring it up because I'd love to see his response to this. But it's like, dude, I'm so tired of this guy having the same media days before his fights, the same things over and over, saying that he wants to fight the dangerous up-and-comers. He's the best in the division. And it's like, this, I mean, I guess I can finally give Colby Covington to some degree some respect because he's finally fighting a guy who's not 48 years old on a 20-fight losing streak, in Joaquin Buckley. And I do think that Buckley's going to KO him. Listen, at the end of the day, Colby Covington lacks power. He lacks submission ability. So he's not going to be a threat in the submissions to Joaquin Buckley. He's not going to be a threat in the power. Sure, he can take down Joaquin Buckley and maybe control him. But Joaquin Buckley has underrated wrestling. He has really good power. So if he hits Colby Covington on that little chinny chin at 36 years old, we might see Colby Covington go to the poker tables forever, boys. And that's what I think we're going to see. I'm just, like I said, I'm just tired of him going on media day and saying all this nonsense over and over. It's just not true. It's a bunch of cope is all it is. And yeah, like I said, look at his inactivity. Have another look at it. 7 fights in 5.5 years. Only beaten washed up legends. Whenever he steps up and fights the real guys like Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards, he loses. Tyron Woodley, Jorge Masvidal, Robbie Lawler, Rafael dos Anjos. Literally all guys who are in their 40s now. That's who Colby Covington last won over. Doesn't have a single win over any ranked welterweight. And it's like, gifted all of his title shots against his first title shot was warranted, right? The second one against Usman and the one against Leon were completely gifted. He did not deserve it. He didn't do anything to warrant it. He beat Tyron Woodley, who was on a 2-fight losing streak, and then he beat Jorge Masvidal, who was also on a 2-fight losing streak, sat out for a year and a half, and then came back to get a shot against Leon, showed up and looked the most embarrassing he's ever looked because this guy, I don't think this guy's training all the time. I really don't. I think this guy's in the casinos. He's buying escorts in Miami and paying them to make these Instagram videos with him to make it look like, yeah, I got all these mamacitas. It's just embarrassing. Like, this guy's 36, and he talks and acts like he's like 20, like a douchebag 20-year-old. That's the vibes Colby Covington gives me. I don't know, man. I feel like he's on his way out. If he was to lose this fight against Buckley this weekend, which I think he will, there's rumors that it's the last fight of his contract. He said at the media day it was fake news and that he signed a new contract, but at 36 years old, especially if he gets KO'd, which I hope he does, because all the BS he talks, I just want to see what he would say if he got KO'd. Like, what is he going to say? He's going to call the ref a cheater? Is he going to say that he had a broken jaw coming in? It's like, what excuse is this guy going to make up next if he were to lose this fight this weekend by KO? But yeah, I was a Colby Covington fan at once until this guy started talking about guys' dead coaches, until he started talking about Leon's dead dad for promotion for fights. It's like, dude, there are ways to promote a fight without being an absolute scumbag. Like, the stuff he said about Dustin Poirier, fair enough. He's not talking about nobody that's dead. Fair enough, he's talking about his family. But it's like, dude, talking about dead people in order to promote a fight is like the scummiest of the scummiest stuff you can do. And yeah, man, I just think Colby Covington's an absolute fraud. I don't think anything's real about him. I think his personality's fake. I think his shtick is fake. I don't think his fighting skills are very good. I think he wasted half his career on the sideline, and he talks about being the best welterweight. He's the king of Miami and all this. And it's like, dude, the shtick is up. You're getting KO'd this weekend. You're getting sent to the retirement home. Go back to the poker tables because you have nothing left to show in the UFC. That's the video, boys. I just had to come here and expose this absolute fraud for talking nonsense all week, really. And his entire career has been talking nonsense. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Am I a hater? Am I drinking that haterade? Am I a casual? Let me know down below. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I always appreciate you guys watching and supporting the videos. Thank you guys. I'm bouncing out of here, and peace.